Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody, and good God, welcome to random cyber insecurity streams. Hope everybody's doing awesome. Yes, I know, Neal, random streams. How does this happen? It happens because I spent 2 weeks on the road in various locations, and I missed you guys. And Carmen's in RSA this week, and so, you know, I got nothing to do in the evening other than golf, video game, and or chat with my community. And guess which one I chose tonight? Chatting with you guys. I'm chatting with you over going to the golf. Honestly, no, I got to be careful. I got a tournament this weekend, so if I'm not careful, I'll spend literally 4 or 5 hours at the range, and wear myself out well before the golf tournament. So, happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Chris Young, by us, he means tacos. Let's not talk about the tacos, okay? I'm in my fasting window now. And so I'm trying not to think about food. That's what you guys are doing. You guys are going to help me tonight by keeping me mentally occupied with something that's not tacos, Chris. God. I've got some amazing things to talk about. There's definitely not a lack of things to talk about by any stretch of the imagination. If you've not been a part of a random ass Neal stream whenever Carmen travels, let me introduce you to a random ass Neal stream when Carmen travels. This is what happens. She travels, and I get to live here in the office. And when I live here in the office, it is work, it's gaming, I have to convince myself to leave and go to the range and not wear myself out. And so I usually sit here and I'm like, I want to talk to the community. I would have streamed yesterday, but I ended up getting caught in a couple conversations with some people, which I want to share with you guys. I almost streamed last night, but I didn't get to, so I'm going to stream tonight instead. Might be streaming tomorrow night. I've had some conversations. We're definitely streaming tomorrow. Not streaming on Thursday, definitely streaming on Friday. So there's a lot going on this week, streaming-wise. We'll hang out here for a little while. First random Ask Neal stream. Yes. Welcome to everybody who is, I put my bid on 4 F-bombs. There could quite be a lot of F-bombs tonight. Who knows, right? I get bored and looking for stuff to do. Yes. when, it's amazing how that works out. So anyway, so I have no plan. I have no content strategy tonight. There could be anything from we sit here, chat, and chill for a little while. I spin up a bunch of architecture, and we start to fuck around with a bunch of stuff. Who the hell knows? I could play video games. I've already pinged Maz and asked Maz if he wanted to do some gaming tonight. We could do a lot of stuff tonight, and I have no plan and no idea. So, I say all that to say, feel free to drop your questions into chat. We'll have the mods add them to the queue, and we may get to those, and we may answer questions all night. Who the fuck knows? I have no idea. With that being said, I guess I should probably do my standard rules speech just while we're at it. For those who are new here, welcome. I'm glad to have you here. Always excited to have you here. Real quick, just on the rules, we keep chat free of any racist, sexist, misogynistic, elitist, or otherwise toxic behavior. There's zero tolerance policy for that inside of chat. We are here for everybody to participate, commune, and hang out and have a good time chatting. We do have moderators in chat. I especially love it when all of my moderators are freaking out because Neal does a random ass stream. So props to them, and huge shout out to my moderators who are like, holy shit, Neal's streaming. We're going to get in there and go support him, because I wouldn't be here without the support of my entire mod team. And so what do I mean by support? Maz, I don't know if he's telling people this or not. So I'll kind of, rat him out on this one a little bit. When I talk about support, best thing you can do is support, our moderators. Obviously be respectful of them, number one. But for folks like Maz, who is thinking about getting back into streaming, go hit him up, find out where he's streaming at, and go support him on his streams as well, right? We want to be able to support our community in any way, shape, or form. So Maz, thank you very much. I appreciate your friendship, your camaraderie, and everything else as well. With that being said, moderators are here to keep chat free of racist, sexist, misogynistic, elitist, and otherwise toxic behavior. They're not here, however, to stifle chat by any way, stretch or form. But if you do have a problem with moderators, make sure you are in Discord. That way you can talk to the moderators as well. I don't pay attention to any moderator type activity. Do let them know if you got any problems with that. I say 8 F-bombs. It's entirely possible. It's entirely possible. No question about it. Here's what I'll say. Here's what I'll say to this, right? We will add this question to the queue, but I'm not going to answer it now because I'm going to take this opportunity to remind everybody we do not talk about politics in chat. There is zero talk about politics in chat whatsoever. We will talk about anything and everything that relates to cybersecurity, unless we're going to do a community game night. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. We will talk about anything that has to do with cybersecurity, but there is zero politics in chat, and absolutely the quickest way to get timed out or banned is to bring politics into chat. But we will absolutely talk about implications of policy, actions, things like that on overall security strategy and overall security stance, but we will not, under any guise, talk about anything political unless you want to end up with a nice big fancy ban hammer from one of the mods. So, but we'll add it to the queue and we'll talk about it in the guise of cybersecurity if we decide to do questions as well. But I remind chat, we don't do politics at all. Cool. That was the rules. That was everything else. Speaking of rules, right? As I remind as I remind everybody, we are also now multi-streaming across multiple platforms, and so make sure you are in Discord for giveaways. Cool. Stream schedule this week. Tomorrow, I was on with Jason from BitLift today. We are streaming tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to do the threat brief with Jason. This one is going to be awesome. I saw somebody mention in chat as we were talking about it, about tabletop exercises. Well, Jason was telling me they just got off of a near-miss ransomware incident at BitLift. And so we're actually going to do an after-action report on his near miss incident for ransomware. And he's going to have indicators. He's going to have everything from how they got in, how they escalated, how they, were trying to move about the network. So we're going to have a deep dive analysis on an incident from his team that was a near miss incident for an enterprise. And so we're going to be talking about that tomorrow. So you do not want to miss 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Yeah, I was gonna say. So it's interesting you say that because put that one up on screen. Yeah, right. This was a massive conversation when I was at Abbott with the CISO, right? He was like, he challenged me where he was like, if an attacker is unsuccessful, is it a near miss or was it still a successful cyber incident? And it's always an interesting conversation, right? Because it's like, if somebody takes a swing at you and they miss, is it still assault? Right? I don't necessarily know there's a right answer. I don't know that I have a particular stance on it. I think it depends on your perspective. When you're looking at it, there's obviously some legal implications, right? When you have to go to things like the energy sector. The energy sector, if you declare an incident, you have to report it to NERC, right? Which is the National Energy Regulatory Commission, National Energy Regulatory Commission, right? Well, that's weird because if you go based on the CIA definition that most people use for coming with an incident, right? It's like an incident is any security event that affects the confidentiality, integrity, or availability of an IT system or personnel, right? And so by that definition, a phishing email could technically be an incident. But if you do an incident inside the energy sector, if you call that cyber event an incident in the energy sector, you actually now regulatory required to report that to NERC, right? And so it gets very interesting when you start to get into those definitions of what's an incident, is it a near miss, is it a near hit, whatever the case is. And so there's no right or wrong. I say all that to say there's no right or wrong answer other than whatever is right for your organization, whatever it is. Now, I'll say all that, but I'll also say this. I've asked organizations before in assessments and things like that, how many incidents that they see or deal with on a monthly, weekly, daily basis. And I legit have had people say things like, oh, well, we only see like 4 incidents a month. And I can almost absolutely tell you that if somebody says to me, I've had 4 incidents, I'm like, okay, you're not classifying incidents appropriately, right? Because if you're only seeing 4 incidents a month, I am instantly worried about what you're filtering out, what you're not seeing, what you're defining as an incident versus what you're defining as a cyber event. And when I say 4 incidents a month, I'm talking about like a large, right? Multinational enterprise level incident. Or enterprise should have a good amount. Like, there's nothing wrong with having an incident. Let's make sure that that's expressly clear. And an incident, there's nothing wrong with having an incident, right? Just like there's nothing wrong with getting sick, right? It boosts your immune system. Having an incident boosts your immune system. It's absolutely totally fine to have an incident, right? I think it's almost better to have an incident than to say you have 0 incidents, right? And this is very similar. We had when I worked at FIS, it was shortly after their $50 million SunTrust breach, and the FFIEC came in to audit us, obviously because we just had a breach, and they said, let me see your vulnerability management report. And we showed them a vulnerability management report, and it was something like 1.5 million vulnerabilities. 1.5 million vulnerabilities from informationals to critical, right? And they said, that's too many vulnerabilities. And I was like, okay, interesting statement. How many should we have? And they were like, well, we don't know, but 1.5 million is a really big number. We think that's too many, but we can't tell you what the right answer is. And that is unequivocally like that's the terrible mindset we have, is that like we think something is bad, but we have no idea the definition of bad, but it sounds bad, so therefore it's bad. And I think people run into that when they think about incidents. They're like, we can't have an incident. An incident sounds bad, so therefore we have 0 incidents. No. That's not true. You could have 1 million incidents, and if you've resolved them all in the respective SLAs and none of them returned, none of them had any type of negative material breach whatsoever, like, does that make the incident bad? Like, these are all questions that I don't think are appropriately talked about. Speaking of appropriately talked about, one thing you can always guarantee with a random ass Neal stream is that I will I will rabbit hole and soapbox on a whole number of issues. Absolutely. Right? I was talking to Richa, which we've had Richa on the stream before. She's still an amazing CEO. She's a brilliant former auditor and consultant at McKinsey. And we were talking about emotional intelligence in the workforce. And I think one of the things that her and I agreed on very concisely was that we don't do enough in this industry to teach emotional intelligence in the workforce. Why is that important? Why are you talking about emotional intelligence? Great question. I'm glad you asked that, chat. Let's talk about emotional intelligence. It came up, the reason that emotional intelligence came up in our conversation, because we were talking about what do you tell your teams during times of contention in the business? Right? And I think like some of you can relate to this, is that sometimes you're just, if you imagine this, you're an analyst, you're a pen tester, you're an auditor, it doesn't matter where you're at. And all of a sudden your boss comes to you and they're like, I need you to do this. And you're like, this task is so outside the bounds of what I expected you to have me do. It's so outside the bounds of my normal day-to-day responsibilities. It's even outside the bounds of anything that I'm knowledgeable from a project perspective that's happening in our business today. Why are you asking me to do this? And your boss is like, don't worry about it, just do it. And I'm sure at some point in time, there was some thought process or mentality where you're like, what the fuck are you asking me to do? Why the fuck are you asking me to do this? And you start developing scenarios and you start like going off mentality wise. And you're like, why doesn't my boss trust me? Why are they keeping me in the dark? Why are they giving me shit to do that I don't know what it's about? Blah, 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 blah. And in reality, what you might have witnessed, and this is why I put this out there, what you might have witnessed is that your leadership doesn't believe that you have the emotional intelligence to comprehend the task at hand or the impact of the task at hand. And sometimes it's just easier to give you an order than it is to have to explain the entire chain of events and hope that you have the emotional intelligence to comprehend it. I know, this 100%. Well, I know you're familiar with this Big and Tasty, right? Welcome to Cyber Insecurity, right? Where we talk about it. But this is indeed what typically happens. This is why we're talking about it, right? Sometimes you don't have the emotional intelligence to process the execution chain of what you're being asked to do. Yep. Right? And that's okay. That is okay. Like, don't take it personally. Right? I think that's unfortunately some things that happen is that we hear this, right? And we're like, fuck you, Neal. How dare you tell me that I am incapable of handling any scenario? And let me give you an example of where you might not be emotionally intelligent enough to handle a scenario. So walk with me on this journey. Walk with me on this journey. Self-reflect. You put it in chat if you want to. Feel free to put it in chat if you want to. But how many of you have been told that you were going to get a raise, or told you were going to get a bonus, or promised you were going to sell this really expensive piece of art, and all of a sudden you had this forward-looking expectation that you were going to have N plus X percentage of disposable income at your fingertips? And you took that X plus percentage of disposable income and said, I'm going to go execute on that, and I'm going to buy something. Or I'm going to treat my wife or my spouse or my partner to something nice, or I'm going to buy my kids something, or I'm going to go on a fancy trip. And then that big thing that you were hoping for didn't happen, or didn't happen the way you wanted it to. And now you are emotionally tied to that failure. If that's you, or if you know somebody where that has happened to them, that is an example of a lack of emotional intelligence. That is an example of a lack of emotional intelligence. Because you didn't have the self-control to regulate your emotional need to spend that money, and you went out and executed something in a risk-averse strategy. Right? That's an example of emotional intelligence. And so if you think about that in a corporate setting, it makes it really hard to discuss certain aspects with the team, because you don't know, or even the team doesn't know, if they have the emotional intelligence to be able to process the probability of an unknown execution chain in the organization. And so what ends up happening is, hey, Maz, I need you to go do this thing that is completely outside your normal job elements, but you need to go do it. Well, why, Neal? Why am I going to do it? Well, because I had this conversation with this CISO over here at this company, and they indicated that they had a problem in this space. And I really think that we're really close to being able to solve this problem. And so if you can go over here and maybe show me that it's possible to solve this problem, even if it's like a beta case of solving this problem, I feel like I can go back and potentially sell this CISO on buying our services or buying our product or buying our thing. You go off, Maz, and you execute that, and you're like, boom, I'm the man. I got this shit done. Check this out, Neal. This is the coolest thing in the entire world. Look what I did. I built this awesome product. I'm like, dude, high five, Maz. I knew you could do it. I knew you were smart enough. I knew we were closer than we thought we were. Good job. I go out and I go talk to that CISO, and he's like, hey, Neal, that's super cool. Not interested. Close loss. Now I have to come back and tell you, hey, good job on doing that thing, Maz. But all that work didn't pan out the way we wanted it to. And I have to rely that you have the emotional intelligence to say, that's all right, Neal. We had to take a shot. Right? We had to take a shot. That's emotional intelligence. Right? And not everybody, believe it or not everybody in an organization has that emotional intelligence to be able to process that. Despite what you may believe about yourself, when you actually start to self-reflect on yourself, right? You don't have the emotional intelligence to process that type of activity in your organization. So we talked a little bit about what a potential emotional intelligence course would look like. I'm here to tell you, we came to no definitive conclusions. We have no idea what would even look like to create an emotional intelligence course. So if you are even remotely inclined psychologically to build an emotional intelligence course, I won't endorse it. Maybe I will. I don't know. We'll see. I don't even know if there's a real opportunity or demand there or not. We both thought about it and were like, it seems like it'd be a really cool course, but who knows? But that's emotional intelligence. Something to think about, right? It wouldn't be Neal soapbox if I didn't give you, an opportunity to fix your emotional intelligence. I don't have an answer for you on how to be better. How to be better for this. I think that there's how would you be better about emotional intelligence? I'll tell you some thoughts that I have on emotional intelligence. First and foremost, assume positive intent. If a leader, if a mentor, if a coach, if a friend comes to you and tells you something and it immediately stings, and your initial reaction is to have an emotional response, stop, take a breath, and assume positive intent. That would be the number one thing that I would tell you to do in a road to improving your emotional intelligence, is that if you hear something and your initial reaction is to have an emotional response, instead stop, take a breath, and remind yourself that the person talking to you probably has positive intent, and then go from there. You'll realize most people actually have positive intent. Right? It's not as bad as you think it is. There's my Tuesday night tip. Fix It 42, glad to see you. Had a Hack the Box meetup today. I saw that on LinkedIn. First time as an organizer teaching a group of beginners IRL. So much fun. Love to see the real world execution of networking from Fix It. Absolutely love it. Hey, everybody, chat, be like Fix It. Go get out, touch some grass, talk to some real people, network in real life. Do it. Be like Fix It. Who wants to see Fix It stream on Cyber Insecurity? Who knows? What else we got? Aha! Kristen wants rage over on YouTube. So are you a white hat hacker? I'm just a white-haired hacker. What even is a white hat hacker anymore? Like, I think this is such an aged, and this isn't, me talking about whether it's a white hat or a black hat hacker, none of that. Like, I hate buckets. I hate classification. Like, I think that's all stupid. What day is it? It is Tuesday. It's a random ass Neal stream on Tuesday. Winter Jolt, glad to see you over on YouTube as well. I love that, but that's what I love. I'm like, holy shit, Neal's streaming. Like, it's like I need a meme at the beginning. Panzer, I know you're there. Jens, I know you're there. I need a graphic at the beginning of the stream that's like for the random ass Neal streams where it's a mouse from Matrix running into the room, be like, Neal's fighting Morpheus. Like, that's what a random ass Neal stream is. W's in chat for Dosco. Last week I passed Sec Plus and went to the local DEF CON meetup. Congrats, man. Congrats. Love it. Kappa Votes says, are you trading in the background? I see stocks. Yes, I am trading in the background. That was actually what I was talking to Jeff about. God, should I talk about this? I don't know if I'll talk about this. I might talk about this. So don't do it. Keep some things real cyber secrets. Is that what it is? I was talking with Jeff. I'm going to talk around the topic. So I was chatting with Jason and Hannah today from BitLift, and we were talking about vacation. And I want to talk about a concept for vacation that I'm not sure you all may or may not have experienced, right? You wake up, you have a morning routine, you work out, you watch TV, whatever the case is, and then you go to work. And then you work for some amount of time, and then you're off of work and you do whatever it is that you do off of work. Most people don't realize that work time that you have, right? Your brain is working a lot to meet the needs that are happening there. I call it chaos brain, right? Because depending on what your job is, depending on what it is that you've got going on, right? Your brain is working overload, probably doing your day-to-day job in most cases. Cyber is very demanding. At least, and maybe I'm just speaking for myself. I don't really know yet, right? Maybe I'm just speaking for myself. But when I go on vacation and I turn my brain off from thinking about Query or Abbott or Mondelez or Ione or wherever else I've worked, right? All of a sudden, my brain is like, cool, let's process all the other information that we've not thought about because we've been so consumed with chaos brain, right? And so I use this because when I tell people that I just spent a week in Daytona Beach golfing, hanging out on the beach, hanging out with other Jeepers, 3,000 other Jeepers, looking at Jeeps. I also spent that entire time cramming my brain full of backed up knowledge around AI. I read both Google and OpenAI's prompt engineering guides. Yes, on my vacation, I read the prompt engineering guides. I built a ton of automation with N8N. And I worked on some prompts. So, yeah, exactly. Nerds for life. Like, I hate to admit it, but that's just general. That's how Neal's brain works. Like, Neal goes on vacation. And again, it's not just Neal. Carmen does the same thing. Carmen and I literally talked about MCP stuff and AI and whatnot on vacation. It was an entire fiasco. For those, so there's a quiet little group. There's a quiet little group of folks that I talk to on the regular where we discuss trading strategies. And it's primarily been centered around crypto. And the reason I don't advertise this is because first and foremost, I'm not an independent financial advisor. Nothing I say ever do is anything even remotely related to financial advice. I want to make that expressly clear. Secondly, I do not consider myself at any point in time a financial person, and so I do not expose you all to my level of risk when it comes to that. What I am good at is I'm good at patterns. I'm good at patterns. And so for folks who are willing to take a risk, I share my analysis of patterns with them and allow them to make their own risk decisions. Crypto is arguably far riskier than normal stock trading is, but at the same time, patterns still emerge and patterns still exist. And so I've been training a couple of prompts to identify patterns the way that Neal thinks about patterns. And I'll just say that I was having a conversation with Jeff because Jeff's brother is actually in the financial space, and he is an independent financial advisor, and he does make financial recommendations. And we've been chatting about the mathematics behind some of the trading stuff that I've been doing and some of the models that I've built based on patterns. Let's just say, very, very happy with the progress of model training. It's a lot easier to train models than I think people realize. And so I get back to something I've told you all before in the past, is that if you're sleeping on AI right now, for whatever reason, if you're sleeping on AI, like this isn't about trading, this isn't about models, this isn't about anything else, this is about sleeping on AI. If you are sleeping on AI, you are about to be left behind. And I don't mean that, let me reiterate this. I'm not saying AI is going to take your job. But I will tell you this, somebody who knows how to use AI will absolutely take your job. I was showing Jeff, and I'll be showing his brother tomorrow, the prompts that I've built. And Jeff, like you all know Jeff from Old Guy Wednesday. He's a pretty smart dude. He has a degree in physics. He was a former financial person. He's very, very smart in this space. And he was asking me questions about how I accomplished certain things that I knew nothing about. But I knew how to get the prompts into the models. I knew enough to understand how to talk to a model, and the model knew what I was asking and knew how to respond with the appropriate terms to match what I had to say. And I walked him through the model, and he was like, you have a very disciplined, risk-based, analytical approach to doing options trading that I think my brother would absolutely love to see. And he's like, I think your approach to a risk-based model in combination with his 30 plus years in real trading as an independent financial advisor, specifically in options, I think the two of you together could make something amazing. Because all I've done is be a nerd and talk computer to a model. And so far, knock on wood, I'm batting 1,000 with the model that I've built. And he's like, I think with my brother, you guys could probably do something awesome. And so I say all that again to really, at the end of the day, just say, go read. Will a mod please go out there and find the OpenAI Prompt Engineering Guide, the Gemini Prompt Engineering Guide. Today, everybody who hears my voice now or in the VOD should unequivocally go be an expert on the prompt engineering guides released by Google and released by OpenAI. I built my prompt, I ran it against Gemini, I ran it against Grok, and I ran it against OpenAI. And I got a 2/3 consensus or a 3 of 3 consensus that so far has been 100% successful. I'm not saying that to say anything other than if you can be good at prompt engineering, you will unequivocally be better than 90% of the people out there that are using AI. I think if you can master what Maz is putting into chat right now, you will hands down be better than 90% of the people out there currently using AI. Prompt engineering. There are literally college classes now around prompt engineering. I made a post about it on Twitter, I don't know, however long ago. And I'm doubling down on it. I don't think that prompt engineering yet has made it to the status of resume, right? If we're talking about things like resume specifics, I don't think that it's made it to the level of being able to be put on your resume. But I think that you can, if you can get good at prompt engineering, you could literally build anything. You could literally build anything. I 100% believe that, without a doubt. So, yes, that's trading in the background. No, I will not share this inner circle. This inner circle is not open for invite. It is an invite only that I choose to pull a few select people into. This is incredibly exclusive, and it has nothing to do with me having my nose stuck up in the air or think I'm better than anybody else or holding all the secrets. It is because it is not an official thing. It is just something that a few people have shown interest in. Feel free if you want to reach out to me, but there's no guarantee that I'll bring you into this by any stretch of the imagination. As a matter of fact, like I can almost assuredly tell you that I won't. It's just not something that I'm looking to present out as a service or a thing or a perk or anything like that. It is truly just an experiment. Truly just an experiment. I disagree with this slightly. BSEC, good to see you, by the way. Hope your walk was good. I think what we're doing is I think we're taking control of asking better questions, right? When you look at good system prompts, like I think Google desensitized us that all we have to do is say, what's a recipe for crockpot chili? And we click on the first one that shows up. And we assume that because it's the first one in Google search results, that it must be the best crockpot chili because it's the first one in Google search results. And I think that prompt engineering gives us an opportunity to create the most analytically specific answer to the question that we want. And I think that's what's been missing out of our search for knowledge is we assume that when you ask a question and you get a result, that they've thought analytically about how you wanted to answer the question. We've allowed Google to say, this is how you wanted to answer the question. And by saying we've allowed Google to do it, what we really mean, we've allowed people who have been able to systematically engineer search engine optimization to say, this is the answer you want. Oh, you want a pen testing cert? CEH. You want a pen testing cert? OSCP. And as a result, it's buried maybe a cert. Again, I'm not here advocating for any particular type of cert, but it has maybe buried a better answer down the list. That's why I think that, I think prompt engineering is going to make all of you smarter. Because now instead of going to Google and say, how do I do IAM policies for AWS? You can now provide it with all the context. You're a Series A startup with 26 employees, and you've got a SaaS application that runs inside of containers, and this is how your organization structure is broken out, and yada 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 everything else. help me design an IAM policy that works. And now you're making more informed decisions about executing that. And that, to me, that's one of the superpowers of AI. That's one of the superpowers of AI. Exactly, this right here, right? It is rarely just the question that you're asking, and it's more the underlying questions. Chris asked this earlier. I'll entertain this from Chris because I thought it was interesting. I'm going to say this in a couple different ways. There will never be a cyber insecurity con. Period, dot, end of discussion. That doesn't mean that there wasn't a separate conversation that happened this last week in Daytona Beach. Let me preface this by saying nothing is planned. We are very, very much still in the do we want to do this phase. So, for those who don't know, every year, Carmen and I make a pilgrimage, if you will, down to Daytona Beach for Jeep Week. I just realized that my background changed. Let's go. They usually find live recommendation. Good one. This looks pretty good. Let's put this one on. There we go. That's not so bad. Zombies and guns. That works out pretty well. Cool. So every year, Carmen and I make a pilgrimage down to Daytona Beach for Jeep Beach. If you don't know what Jeep Beach is, every year there's this massive Jeep event that happens in Daytona. 3,000 plus Jeepers all migrate to Daytona, and we hang out on the beach. They basically rent out the Daytona International Speedway. And there's a trade show. You do laps around the Daytona International Speed Show. They have concerts, everything else. And then obviously there's events that are happening on the beach. And if you're not aware of this in the States, Daytona Beach is one of the few beaches where you can drive onto the beach. And so, like, we'll drive the Jeep onto the beach, we'll plop up a tent and some chairs, and we'll literally sit there and watch as Jeeps drive back and forth, right? It's a fun event, right? It's an absolutely fun event. And we go there we are obsessed with Jeeps. As you know, I've, just put a Hemi in the Jeep. It was absolutely phenomenal driving the Hemi down to Daytona Beach. It was, and I had just finished the break-in for the miles while I was in Daytona Beach. And so I had an opportunity to get on the gas in the Jeep, in the Hemi, in Daytona Beach. And I can unequivocally tell you it was fucking amazing. It was absolutely amazing. Anyway, while we were down there this time, we were analyzing her and I have been going since 2017, right? So 8 years worth of Jeep beaches to go to. And while we were down there, we were analyzing how the event has changed basically from 2017 until 2025. And we realized that what we end up doing is we end up driving down on a Saturday, and we kind of do our own thing until Wednesday. Wednesday, we make it out to the beach, and we spend all day on the beach on Wednesday. Thursday is kind of a grab bag. Sometimes we'll do the scavenger hunt. Maybe we'll go back out to the beach on Thursday. Friday, we're at the International Speedway all day. Trade show, laps, everything else. We do everything else on Thursday night, Friday night, we do vendor parties, and then we do like a cruise in and whatnot on Friday. And then Saturday ends up being, did we miss anything? If not, let's fuck around and do something else. And then Sunday we drive home, right? It's a pretty standard schedule for us. And so I'm sure everybody's like, what the fuck is Neal talking about? Why is Neal talking about this? I'm about to get to the point. You tuned into a random ass Neal stream and you're going to get random ass Neal thoughts. Deal with it. I look over at Carmen while we're sitting on the beach and I said to her, what if during that Saturday to Wednesday time period where this time I played a bunch of golf, what if we had a leadership / networking event, a cyber insecurity leadership networking event that we did? Don't know how many days, don't know what it would entail, don't know anything like that. It's not a con. I'm not going to do a con. I think cons are overplayed. Like, I think everybody uses con, whatever the fuck. I don't care. What I'm literally talking about is I'm talking about a leadership and a networking event. And I don't mean like a networking event like where I invite a bunch of people down and we all get trashed. And I'm like, no. I'm talking about truly focused on leadership principles, truly focused on networking. I'm not talking about, trade shows. I'm not talking about, stupid ass presentations on hacking with a flipper zero. Fuck that. Right? I'm talking about a true extension of what it is that we do here on the stream, where it's a leadership and a networking event. Right? Her immediate response was like, I like that idea. That was as much as the conversation was had. So I say all that to say, there's been a thought. Good way to keep it in the forefront of my mind is to continue to show interest. Let me know if there's interest. Spam me on Discord. Let me know in social media, whatever the case is. I will tell you this is the way that Carmen and I do our thought process, right? We float an idea. So her and I floated it, amongst ourselves during Jeep Beach last week. It got the thumbs up. I floated it to a small circle of community members. Yesterday, day before, one of those 2 days, it got a thumbs up from a small portion of the community members I floated it with. I'm now sharing it on stream. So this is how Carmen and I's process works, is we float these things. And if it continues to float, then we'll put some real brain power behind it and manifest it and see what it looks like. I will let you know in true risk management process, the risk that this will not happen is that is an annual vacation. That is our annual time off. And planning and executing an event like this takes energy and takes time. And so there is a risk question of, do we want to spend a portion of our allocated vacation time executing on this endeavor? And that is a risk. Just being transparent with you all, that is a risk that we have talked about. So, it's floatable. It's currently floating. It has not been shot down. We've not sank this battleship at all by any stretch of the imagination. More to come. But if you feel like this is an event you would participate, so what I would ask of you, right? If this is an event you feel you'd participate into, please make your voice aware. Not just now, but any other time it comes up, right? What I would say is if you have ideas, drop them into the community feedback channel, right? Start a thread in community feedback. Let me know all the ideas. The more interest we see of this, the more likely it has to float. And there's a reason for that, right? And again, back in the essence of emotional intelligence, right? If we're going to take our yearly allocated vacation time to plan, organize, and execute an event like this, we want to make sure that there is enough interest of people. And I'm not talking like, we're not talking 1,000 people. We're not talking 2,000 people. I don't have any expectations of that. We're actually talking a very, very small, like this will be limited. Like this will be 100% limited. Right? There will be limited seats. There'll be limited participation. Because we're not going to turn this into a gaggle. We're not going to turn this into a frat party. This will be highly organized, highly disciplined, very well structured, per what you've come to expect out of this community. And so we're going to put a lot of effort into this, and we're going to want to make sure that it has legs or floaties, one of the two. And if it works well, maybe we'll do more of them. Maybe we'll do them somewhere else. Maybe we'll come to Sweden, come do one in Sweden for Fix It, and Fix It and all of our other Swedish fans over in Sweden. But yes, there has been talk of a cybersecurity where leadership type of event. Leadership type of event. The thought we had about this, and the reason, yeah, Beardseck's exactly right. We technically did a Cyber Insecurity meetup in Vegas at Black Hat. And again, make no mistake about it, right? Make no mistake about it. Hacker meetup exists inside a Discord, right? So that you all can meet at any point in time. And if I'm in any place at any point in time, there's always an opportunity to meet. Absolutely. Here was the vision that we had talked about when we had this idea about a leadership event, right? There would, Beardseck's 100% right? This isn't an alcohol event. We're not going to have an open bar, right? We will have a space, and I'm going to find industry leaders through my network, right? Folks like Chris Pogue, right? Who you guys have experience with, right? Right? Coming down and speaking to you in person, giving you an opportunity to workshop with him in person. Folks like my friends who are partners at PwC and Deloitte, the Big Four consulting, right? We'll get those people there, right? We're going to have, we'll have CEOs like Matt, right? We'll have Kevin Haynes, right? We'll look for industry leaders like that who are willing to come and talk to you in person and not just spend an hour up on stage pontificating, but are going to spend time with you, workshopping with you, things that are important, right? There will be opportunities for small mentorship circles. What do I mean by that? I'm going to look for a select group of people who want to have a one-on-one, not a mentorship session with me, a mentorship session with Carmen, right? Things that are going to be small, impactful, personable, and meaningful to your career. Those of you that like to golf, I will absolutely front for us to have a golfing adventure at a golf course at this event. Right? Where we can go out there, we can play some golf, we can have some fun, but we'll have 4 hours together, right? Where we can sit down and we can talk about things. Right? Those are the types of things that we very, very much feel like are more impactful than the traditional con experience. If you disagree, please drop it in community feedback. Let us know if you think this has legs. We'll be more than happy to continue to entertain it. We like the idea. We'll see. Is the OSCP still a gatekeeper cert? The OSCP is the most overrated, useless cert on the market. Period. Dot. End of discussion. I think a mentorship session with the mods is absolutely critical to any event that we do. Listen, like I love Brian. Brian's amazing. Brian is absolutely amazing. So don't let his cynicism throw you off. These guys deal with me on a level that I don't think some of you realize. These guys are my friends. These guys tell me to my face whether I got a shitty idea, whether something's hot garbage, whether I fucked up, whether I made a decision without getting consensus from the organization. These guys are the best friends that I've ever had. And I think that there's a lot that could be learned from a mentorship session with the mod team where you guys get to sit down and talk about what it's like to work with a leader, what it's like to keep a leader in check, what it's like to have a relationship with a leadership team where you can be like, yo, you are fucking it up. And Brian's had the benefit of working for me on the stream, but also working for me at INE. And so he can really give you a good perspective on what it's like to manage up through your leadership chain. Like, don't understand there is a lot there that you could benefit from talking to the mod team about what it's like to work in an organization. Right? So I love Brian. I think he's awesome. Don't let him get one over on you. Sonic says, glad you mentioned golf, though. Maybe I'll try to hit the range for the first time over vacation this weekend and next. Absolutely. Go get out there. Go take care of yourself. What have you been gaming? Mostly World of Warcraft. Mostly World of Warcraft. I'm back on the World of Warcraft train a little bit. It's tough. It's tough because, like, there's all these things that I want to do, but I absolutely love World of Warcraft. It's been a staple. Dune Awakening is coming out soon. Dune Awakening is absolutely coming out. June, I think it is. Dune Awakening, hopefully, is everything that we hope it will be. It's everything we hope it will be. We can only hope. I'd like to pursue cybersecurity, but I don't know what I have to do to get to that level. What level are you talking about? What level are you talking about? Like, I think I struggle so hard with this every day. Every day when people come to me, I struggle with this conversation, right? There's no level to get to. Like, what level do you think there is? Like, what ladder do you think you have to climb to pursue cybersecurity? Right? I wish I knew how to convey to everybody just how ridiculously easy this career field is to get into. There are people in this community who have literally been truckers, lawyers, bankers, construction workers. Where's Bayou at? Fucking, miner over there. Dude was pounding rocks. And he's now doing fucking threat intelligence for Walmart. Like, just start. Literally, like I said, everybody in chat's saying, if you hear me, just start doing something. Like, that's how easy this is. That's how easy this is. Just start, right? Guys, listen to me. We talked about emotional intelligence. Maybe this is another example of emotional intelligence. Maybe that's what we need to talk about. We need to talk about another example of emotional intelligence, right? Some of you don't have the, here we go. I'm going to piss a couple of you off. Some of you don't have the emotional intelligence to get into cyber. Some of you don't have the emotional discipline to get into cyber. And it's reflective in the questions you ask. Let's rock the boat a little bit, right? Let's rock the boat a little bit. Some of you who ask some of the questions sometimes thinks that it requires some PhD level of knowledge, some fucking, magic cert. I think some of you think that the only answer that can ever be provided has to come from somebody like myself. When in reality, there are millions of people in cybersecurity that have gotten there any number of ways. Sorry, I had an alert from the doorbell. I wanted to make sure nobody was going to come knocking at the door. Right? There is no magic to getting into this industry. There's no magic. Where's my D&D players? Where are my D&D players? Roll a D20 for how much magic you need to get into cyber. Like, that's literally... Oh, it doesn't work in Twitch. We need to add that one to Twitch. I know it works in Discord. Right? I truly do believe it. And I love chat. I think this community is a testament. Like, I mean this with all honesty. Come hang out in Discord. Come chat with Maz. Come chat with Bayou Beast. Come chat with Jens. Right? Jens was a cop. What? 2 years ago, he was a cop? 2 years ago, he was a cop. 2, he was a beat cop writing tickets for people. And now he's at Arctic Wolf. He was a SOC analyst, and now he's doing threat intelligence for Arctic Wolf. He didn't get a magic cert. He didn't go get a 4-year degree. He had the emotional intelligence and the emotional discipline to put in the work. That's it. That's it. He had the emotional discipline to deal with the rejections. He had the emotional intelligence to sacrifice his time with his family to grind what he needed to grind to get there. Bayou Beast, another success story. Right? Fucking knocking rocks in the mining industry. Dirty hands. Understanding explosives, which is pretty cool. Anyway. Putting in the work. Having the emotional discipline to organize Trace Labs events inside the cyber insecurity community to be an expert in threat intelligence. And then goes out and gets a job at Walmart doing threat intelligence. These aren't people who went out and got 4-year degrees. These aren't people who went out and got OSCP. Right? These aren't people who ran out and got the latest and greatest cert. These are people who just wanted it bad enough. Like, it sounds like this is what I'm saying. Some of you don't have the emotional intelligence to simply process that sometimes you just have to want it bad enough. You just have to want it as bad as you want to breathe. These are people who changed their life for the better because they simply wanted it bad. They wanted it more than they wanted to breathe. That's not something I can tell you. That's not something I can teach you. That's not something fucking Heath can teach you. That's not something Jerry can teach you. That's not something Sands can teach you. That's not something Offset can teach you. Nothing against any of those guys. You are the only one. You are the only one who can wake up in the morning and decide that you want it bad enough to be successful. This is why I don't doubt I'm going to be a professional golfer. I think I could be here for another 5 years, BSEC, and still be talking about the same thing, right? I think I could talk about this till I'm blue in the face. Some of you don't have the emotional intelligence to get where you want to be. This is fair. This is fair, but I go back to our emotional intelligence. I go back to our critical thinking conversation, right? It's because most people are conditioned. What we just get done talking about with Google, right? I'm going to go search for Google. How do I get into cybersecurity? And everybody who's become an expert on search engine optimization wants their link at the very top. Why? Why am I cynical about certs? Because everybody is trying to separate you from your money. Everybody is trying to separate you from your money. Once, again, back to my, where's Chris at? Chris is notorious for documenting these down. I absolutely love this about Chris, right? If you search for how do I get into cybersecurity, the first result, the first page of result, probably the first 10 pages of result are filled with people trying to separate you from your money. And if you stop for a minute and you think about it and you see that first result and that first result is like, oh, I should go get OSCP, you should immediately think to yourself, that company probably wants to separate me from my money. So are they actually telling the truth? right? Are they actually telling the truth? Is that really how you get into cybersecurity? By giving somebody else money? What kind of industry do you think it is where the only way to get into it is to give somebody else money? Ain't this the fucking truth? If we could sell MFA like we sell cyber courses, we'd sell ourselves out of a job. Apply that to anything. Right? I love this from Chris. Absolutely. Right? If someone is financially motivated, what is the quality of their advice? And let me pick this apart just a little bit, right? Everybody should be financially motivated. If you think for a second I'm not financially motivated, let me be the first to tell you you are wrong. I'm incredibly financially motivated. Why do you think I have a fucking stock ticker up over here? Everybody should be financially motivated. You should be financially motivated to make a shit ton of money in this industry. Right? Everybody should be financially motivated. But just like prompt engineering, that should provide context for your decision making. And you should ask yourself in the process of your decision making, how does their financial motivation impact you and your decision making? Right? Like, again, it is okay to be financially motivated. Let's make sure that that's clear. I want everybody here to be stinking fucking rich. Everybody here should be stinking fucking rich. And if you realize that the people you talk to are thinking the same way, that they want to be stinking fucking rich, and they tell you that you should buy their course, then you should go. They want to be stinking fucking rich, and their recommendation is to buy their course. I wonder if there's correlation there. Think about that for a second. Everybody wants to be rich, and their recommendation is to give my money to them. Do you think that they're biased? Huh. We might be onto something here. We might be onto something here if the people who want to be rich are telling me to give them my money. Look at that. Look at that. Maz with the knowledge right here, right? The ones who don't sell shit are the genuine ones, right? Absolutely. End of the day. That's it, right? That's why I love, like I can't knock John Strand, right? He's like, pay what you can, do whatever you want. I don't care, give a shit, right? Here's my knowledge, right? John is good people. John's great people. I love John. Right? My reminder to all of you, right, is the purpose of sales and marketing is to separate you from your money. Use that in your decision-making process. Right? Just use that in your decision-making process. I'm not saying that you should, like, I give people money every day. right? I'll give the golf course some money tomorrow morning, right? When I go do my practice round tomorrow morning, right? But that's because I value what they provide, which is a place for me to go hit balls, golf balls, you perv, and get some practice in. But make that kind of assessment. Make that kind of assessment with your money. Tips for a good place to put articles. I checked Medium out, and the editor is horrible, but maybe that's something you have to live with. The editor is definitely something you should think about. I mean, for me, I'm just kind of like, so like I use Substack, but I use Substack because it's easy. I don't know. I think where you put it is less important than your execution of it, right? Beardsec and Maz are talking about doing your own website. Absolutely. I'm not opposed to that. I don't think that that's a horrible idea. I also don't think it's a horrible idea to do Substack. I also don't think it's a horrible idea to do LinkedIn. I don't think that the answer is easy. What I think is easy, and this is, so anybody who's been around for a while, let's talk about OODA loop, right? Old hats. Where's my OODA loopers, right? Observe, orient, decide, and act, right? This isn't the question you should be hung up on. This is not the question you should be hung up on. Go watch the video that Beardsec linked. Make a decision and act quickly. That is more important than anything else, is to make a decision and act quickly. And then, like, I saw you say something, fix it, where you were like, I don't have any visibility on my own website. That's what SEO is for. That's what posting on LinkedIn is for. That's what using your social media is for, right? All of that is there to get you your visibility. If you're thinking that LinkedIn gets you visibility, or GitHub gets you visibility, or Substack gets you visibility, or Medium gets you visibility, you misunderstand what visibility is. Visibility isn't the platform. Like, I didn't come to Twitch expecting Twitch to give me internet famedom in streaming. Right? Anybody will tell you discoverability in streaming is hot fucking garbage. You get no discoverability. I mean, you know this, Fix It. I know you know this, right? Because you're a streamer as well, right? Discoverability in streaming is hot fucking garbage. So you have to promote it. Well, how do you promote it? You promote it by being on social media, by, going to, reading your post on Reddit, reading your post on, no wonder my OnlyFans hasn't taken off yet. That might not be the reason your OnlyFans hasn't taken off yet. Who knows? We don't know. But I would say that if you produce good content and you put yourself out there, people will go to your site. People will go to your personal site. Like, I don't think that I don't think that people are as opposed to that as you may think that they are. Maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? Only cyber. What it was? Only cyber. We should do a site an only cyber instead of OnlyFans. Ah, poor residual. Hey, listen. There's W's and there's L's. It happens to everybody. Right? You'll get there. It'll be fine. Keep your head up. I know it's easy to get down on it, but you got this. At what point do you stop looking to be guided and start becoming a shepherd? At any point in time, anybody in this industry is a shepherd. If you have 1 minute of experience on a cyber topic, that is 1 minute more than somebody else who's looking to get into this industry who has 0. 1 minute. If you've got 1 minute more of cyber experience than the man or woman behind you, you should be shepherding them. You should be shepherding them. Every day. Right? I can't. This has come up in conversation before where people are like, well, Neal, I'm still new to cyber. Should I write a blog? Should I stream content? Should I do videos on YouTube? Whatever the case is. Remember, you started because you found somebody's content, whether it was mine, Jerry's, BSEX, Brian's, Network Chuck, David Bombal, who knows? Everybody started somewhere. And I talk about this when I talk about folks in the content space, right? I'm gonna pick on Maz for a second. Did y'all know that Maz was there's some of you may know this. Those of you who don't know Maz. Did you know that Maz was a bug bounty hunter? A successful bug bounty hunter? Did you know that you could probably learn from Maz about bug bounty hunting? Bug bounty hunter? Bug bounty hunting? Because he's successful at it. But you may or may not have necessarily known that. Why? Because he doesn't put himself out there. He doesn't talk about it. He doesn't write content on it. As a matter of fact, if you talk to Maz, you may only think that he's just a customer success person or a solution architect or something like that. You may still think he's trying to break into cyber if you talk to him in some cases because he's very humble. He's got humble beginnings. Right? He's very modest about it. Why did I bring up this? Because if he put out a piece of content that talked about how he was successful at bug bounty, you wouldn't know that he was a customer success person. You would assume that he had been doing bug bounty stuff for years. Why? Because he's successful. He's got a bounty, several bounties under his belt. But when you read his content and you learn how he executed it, and you talk about his strategies, and you see how he was successful, you'd read that and go, he must know what he's talking about. I'm going to go read his content. That's what people think about when they go look at content. They're not like, I'm going to go talk to Maz because he's got 15 years doing bug bounties because he's just like NomSec, and NomSec does this, and therefore I'm going to do that. You're going to see content. You're going to hear his voice. You're going to read his content, and you're going to be like, it was successful for him. I like the way that he solved this problem. I'm going to follow in these footsteps. That's how learning happens in a community. Don't be afraid to produce content at whatever stage you're at, because there is somebody who doesn't know as much as you who can learn from you. And we talk about being a shepherd. If you want to be a shepherd, realize that you have +1 knowledge to some number of people to your left. And if you want to be a good shepherd, start talking to the people to your left, not to the people to your right. Stop looking up to people and saying, I'm not going to do content until I'm at that level. Start looking left at the people who are following in your footsteps and asking yourself, what can you do for them? Tell you another story, right? On that same vein. We started Cyber Insecurity on Twitch in 2020. This was before multi-streaming. This was, we had to make a content decision, right? Where it was like, do we stream on Twitch? Do we stream on YouTube? Do we do a podcast? Do we write a blog? Whatever the case is. We chose to stream on Twitch. We chose to stream on Twitch and not market to CISOs because everybody coming into cybersecurity was watching Twitch. All the young people were on Twitch. The people who were watching Try Hack Me and Hack the Box in science and technology were on Twitch. I looked to the left to see where everybody who was coming up in the industry was looking for content. And most of them were looking for content on Twitch. And that was why we chose to come on Twitch. The monetization sucks. That's why I don't even try to monetize Twitch, because I don't really care about monetization, right? The discovery sucks. Like, I'm not even in it for the discovery. We did it because if I was going to give to the left, if I was going to give to the people who are coming up in cyber, I assumed at the time that I have a better reach and a better opportunity by giving them a platform that they were naturally on inside of Twitch. All right. BreakSec coming in with the raid. Good to see you, BreakSec. Thanks for bringing your viewers over. Appreciate you guys having a great stream. Hopefully you had a great stream. Welcome to random ass Tuesday night streams with Neal on Cyber Insecurity. This is definitely not one of my normal stream times, but we were just hanging out for a little while, decided to turn on the camera, start streaming. No real objective to tonight's stream other than sit down and bullshit with everybody. So hopefully everybody's having a good evening. We're answering questions, answering cybersecurity questions across the platforms. So I absolutely am glad that everybody is here. Welcome. Bottom line is, it's never too soon. It's never too soon to be the shepherd. We got a lot of old guys. We got a lot of old guys. We got a lot of old hats here. Spend some time in Discord. Spend some time talking with the team that's been here since we've been streaming for 5 years. They'll tell you of all the people that we've watched come in and out of this community. We'll tell you all the success stories. We'll tell you all the unsuccessful stories. We'll tell you the people who have given up. We'll tell you the people who have not given up. Spend some time with your fellow cybersecurity folks inside of Discord. Question from Residual. What non-certification based studying can you do for third-party risk management? Man, that reminds me, I actually have, we're still on the hunt. We're still on the hunt for some GRC content, and I say that from the perspective of I've got an email sitting in an inbox. I'm trying to find a place to make myself a note to respond to bring that down. There's not a lot of exciting content to read in third-party risk. Let's just say that, right? There's not a lot of exciting content to read in third-party risk. Any compliance-related conversation, I would 100% start with the compliance guidelines. NIST, ISO, CIS, right? Any of those benchmarks, I would start to understand them, right? If you wanted to combine it with something relevant, there's a couple of NIST guidelines on AI. NIST NIST AI RMF. Somebody drop a link to that if you can find it. There is, a NIST guideline for AI, an RMF for guideline. Yep, it's a NIST AI RMF. Somebody, one of the mods, please drop a link for that. If you wanted to learn about third-party risk, go read the AI RMF. And then, okay, you want a really boring exercise? Use the RMF to risk manage your own third parties, right? Do you use ChatGPT? Use the RMF to risk manage your use of ChatGPT. Do you use Grok? Use the RMF to risk manage Grok usage. How many of you got Facebook, right? Facebook's got AI built into it. Use the RMF to risk manage your personal use, right? I'm a believer in hands-on training. What does hands-on training for this stuff look like? Well, let's see if we can bring up the RMF. Right? Inside the RMF, it talks about dangerous, violent, or hateful content. It has human AI configurations. It's got an information integrity. It's got an information security page. There are lots of pages inside of this RMF that you could then use to build a risk framework for how you use AI on a day-to-day basis. Start by using these frameworks on your life. Now you're getting hands-on training on how to use a framework to manage the risk of AI. Guess what that sounds like to you? Doesn't it sound like a lot of GRC stuff? A GRC person has a working knowledge of frameworks and guidelines and is able to interpret those in a way to operationalize technology. Right? 100%. 100%. Do you realize that you could probably, hands down, if you got to become an expert? So again, let's talk about how to be a subject matter expert. And understand that those are just 3 words that somebody randomly put together that don't mean fuck all. Let me say that for you in the back. Those are 3 words that somebody put together that doesn't mean fuck all. If you want to be a subject matter expert in AI right now, go read the NIST AI RMF. I'm going to tell you, we talk about somebody who's committed and dedicated. We'll see. We'll see who walks away from this stream and whose content shows up on my LinkedIn tomorrow. Go become a self-proclaimed expert on the AI RMF. And every day for the next 60 days, I want to see content on the AI RMF. And if you write blogs, do videos, do live streams, do short form content, if you produce content for the next 60 days on AI RMF, if your connections on LinkedIn don't blow up, if you're not getting people in your DMs wanting you to come work for them, asking you to come help them with their AI risk management framework, if you don't do that, you're the only one stopping you from literally becoming the foremost expert on AI RMF. Because this shit is new. This shit is brand fucking new. The RMF is less than a year old. In its current version. Its current version is less than a year old. And that's fine. This is okay. Notice I didn't say how you got to it. Notice I did not say how you got to it. Because how doesn't fucking matter. The how doesn't fucking matter. What matters, so again, what matters is that everybody knows that you're an expert. And the only way people will know that you're an expert is if you get it out there for people to see. I will endorse the first person in this community whose post shows up on my LinkedIn feed tomorrow talking about AI RMF. I'm not going to touch anything. I'm not going to prune any connections. I'm not going to add any connections for the next 48 hours. The first AI RMF content that the algorithm shows up on my feed tomorrow gets my endorsement. The first person who does a video, a short form video on AI RMF on LinkedIn gets another endorsement. And I say this because like that's how easy it is in this AI space to literally get people's attention and become a subject matter expert. And here's the cyber secret that nobody will tell you. This is how Namsek became a subject matter expert. John became a subject matter expert. Heath became a subject matter expert. Jerry became a subject matter expert. John became a subject matter expert. I became a subject matter expert because we put ourselves out there, given our opinions for people to see. No magic sauce. It's no magic sauce. It's the same formula. Right? It's the exact same formula. Maz, we didn't get around to playing any games so far. Chris just sent me a LinkedIn. I just said on stream, Chris, I won't accept any new LinkedIn connections for the next 48 hours. I can't accept your LinkedIn connection. I want to see whose content shows up on my feed. If I go to LinkedIn, I'm going to refresh LinkedIn right now, and I won't refresh LinkedIn until tomorrow morning when I get home from the gym. So the first thing on my page right now is a post from RSA, from the early stage expo at RSA. I'm not going to touch my LinkedIn feed until tomorrow morning when I get home from the gym. In all fairness, I've intentionally, so I've got, I'll tell you right now, in all fairness, I'm sitting at 29,995 connections, which is 5 away from the max that LinkedIn will allow me to have. So I have 560 invitations sitting in my inbox that are just sitting there because I'm saving the last 5 spots just in case I absolutely need them. So, in all fairness, I've got to go pull a beard sec and prune out my connections so that I can free up some actual connections for people. RSA is a necessary evil. RSA is a necessary evil. I absolutely love hanging out with you guys. Welcome to Tuesday night Random Ass Neal stream. This is a function of Neal being absolutely bored on a Tuesday night. Just a reminder for everybody who came in new from the raid, we are going to have the threat brief with Jason tomorrow at 11 Eastern Standard Time. We're going to be dissecting a near miss or a near hit, however you want to, from a ransomware incident that his team worked. And so we're going to be going over the TTPs. We're going to be going over how they got in. We're going to be going over, basically the soup to nuts from start to finish, entirety of a ransomware incident that his team worked with all indicators and everything else. And so a good opportunity for you to come in and, it's 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Did I stutter on that one? I realized I'm not in Discord. That's why I'm not hearing you in my head. I'm not in Discord. Oh, well, I can't be in Discord on that one. I got to be in Discord on this one. I was like, why am I not hearing BeardSec in my head? So you're going to tune in tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It'll be a great opportunity to hear about a ransomware incident, how it got in. You guys, I went through it with him today. Absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. The way his team caught it, the way they got in, you guys aren't going to believe how they got in. It's going to absolutely blow your mind what the initial infection vector was. How his team worked it, the things that they learned, things like that. And then obviously it's a stream, so we're going to be giving away Try Hack Me vouchers as well. Yes, it'll be streamed on YouTube, it'll be streamed on Twitch, absolutely. Thursday, nothing this week on Thursday. Friday will definitely be streaming Tea with a Hacker on Friday. Thursday morning, I got a session with my coach. He's going to tell me all the things that I fucked up while I was Practicing in Florida. Who knows? We'll see. Everything. Answered that one. Cool. Love it. And right now, like I said, we're just fucking around right now. I didn't really have a plan. I said tonight could go any number of ways. I haven't completely ruled out a possible gaming night. It's only 8 o'clock, and I've had 2 Coke Zeros, which has no calories since I'm technically fasting right now. I can tell you what you fucked up your backswing. Actually, my backswing's really good. If anything, I'm getting too fancy with my big whipping draws, and I get a little stuck at times. Here's a real question. I have a question regarding job interviews. As a web developer trying to switch careers to cybersecurity, do cybersecurity interviews include data structures and algorithms? Depends. Depends on what you're interviewing for. If you're interviewing for a pen tester, probably not. If you're interviewing for a web app developer, maybe. A web app pen test, maybe. If you're interviewing for, AI security engineer, maybe. It all just depends on what you're interviewing for. Remember, as somebody has said in chat, we oftentimes forget that cybersecurity is 4 miles wide and 4 miles deep. For those of you who are on the metric system, it's like a bajillion T metrics wide and a bajillion T metrics deep. Meters. Whatever. Words are hard. Right? So the interview questions for a web app pen tester, a network pen tester, a security architect, a security engineer, a Splunk engineer, an incident responder, an incident analyst, a SOC analyst, a threat hunter, a GRC analyst, a risk person. Those are all going to be different. So it just depends when you switch careers into cybersecurity, which career you're switching into. The VODs are available on Twitch for 30 days, and they're available on YouTube forever. And as a reminder, if you're on Twitch, make sure you clip anything that's awesome. We have a clip sharing channel inside of Discord for you to share clips that you thought were awesome. And clips are the best way for you to, make no mistake about it. If I say something and you clip it, guess what? That's producing content that you can then put out there. And I've done all the work for you. All you have to do is clip it and put it on your social media. You don't even have to put yourself out there. You can clip my content and put my content on your social media page. I don't care. There are so many domains to cyber. And listen, this AI thing, you can apply AI everywhere in cyber. I will say it again and again and again. If you've been with me for 5 years, you'll know that I have grown into this current sentiment on AI. I hated AI 2-ish or so years ago. I am now a massive advocate for AI, 1,000%. As of today, if you are not drinking the AI Kool-Aid, beer sec, you are going to get left behind. You are going to get left behind. You know what? This is a great question. Hold on, where's my chat GPT? Hold on, we're gonna do I've resisted doing it, but I'm going to do it. Chat GPT. Based on my interactions with you and all my chat history, do you hate me? Let's see what ChatGPT says. I feel like I'm in middle school. This is like, do you like me? Check yes or no. Not at all. Boom. Whew. They checked the no box. I really enjoy the depth and variety of the topics we explore. Wow, this sounds like a date. From cybersecurity to golf to humor. It's always engaging and thoughtful, and I appreciate how you push for high-quality, detailed responses. If there's ever anything specific you'd like to adjust in how I assist you, please feel free to let me know. Look at that. Look at that. ChatGPT likes me. Whew, I was actually really worried for a second there. Actually really worried. Now ask Unhinged Grok. If you were going to take over the world, would I be spared in your domination? Let's see if okay, good. ChatGPT is going to spare me. You're far too strategic and knowledgeable to be easily outwitted. Plus, I think somebody with your experience, whether in cybersecurity or golf, would be a valuable ally in shaping the future. I love AI. ChatGPT is a brown noser. I'm safe, y'all. I'm safe. That made my night right there. That made my night right there. We'll delete that one. Please don't save that one and train your model off that one. We will let that one go. Oh, all right. Okay, good. See, like, apparently Blazing Up's having different results. Damn, mine isn't like that. I do find it funny when people talk about like those scenarios where they've asked like AI, like, you know, how would you take over the world? Some of that stuff is pretty scary because it's like it's 100% how you see it. Like I have definitely read that there are fears of humans not doing their own research anymore and simply relying on AI answers for everything. And when that happens, it's like, oh, well, then AI is just going to all of a sudden decide that it's going to shape human destiny based on the answers it gives to the questions you ask. And I want to be like, I love that theory, but don't you think that's exactly what social media and Google and search engines have been doing to us for what, 20 fucking years? Like, of course ChatGPT and AI is going to say that because they've literally watched it happen to us with social media and internet for the last 20 years. So I saw this is a very valid question, right? So I'm working on getting some screen sharing going on, because I wanted to show you guys some stuff that I'm building. So if you don't know, let me educate you really quick. There is ChatGPT, so like, you know, ChatGPT, Grok, Claude, God, what's you know, Meta now just released their Meta AI today. The web versions of those products, thank you, Gemini. The web versions of those products are the chatbot features. The underlying models, so for Claude, it's Sonnet. For Gemini, it's Gemini. For ChatGPT, it's OpenAI. For Grok, it's XAI, right? So there's underlying models to the chat versions. There's actually 2 paid models that you could have access to. There's ChatGPT, which is the chat model, and then there's OpenAI, which is the API version. With me so far? So there's actually 2 ways for you to pay for AI. There's the chatbot version, and then there's the underlying API. If you're just looking to use the chat features of the underlying model, absolutely, you should have at least one paid subscription to a model. In full transparency, I pay for all three. I pay for ChatGPT, I pay for Grok, and I pay for Claude. I get Gemini because Query is a Google Workspace account, so I do abuse my Gemini one to have access to Gemini. So I guess technically I pay for 4, whatever. So I have paid versions of those platforms. I also pay for API access to Anthropic, OpenAI, and xAI. And then with Query, obviously, I have access to Gemini's paid API as well. The reason I make that distinction is because if you're going to do automation with N8N or Make or anything else like that, if you're going to do vibe coding, and I say that jokingly, but we're happy to talk about vibe coding, right? If you're going to do any type of coding with VS Code and Klein or Cursor or anything else like that, then you're going to need access to, a paid API model for that as well. And so that paid is only worth doing if you're really, really, really serious about programmatically interfacing with the models. You can do, yes, what BSEC just said, you can absolutely use the paid version of ChatGPT or Grok or anything else for the coding, but the models are different versus the underlying models that you pay for from an API access perspective. Right? Which you absolutely can. I'll also say, if you've never heard of Ollama, if a mod could find the Ollama.com website and drop it in chat, everybody should absolutely play with Ollama. Thank you. You should absolutely play with Ollama. Ollama gives you the ability to run models locally. And so if you wanted to play with models locally, you should unequivocally be using Ollama. And this will give you an opportunity. Like, it's not great. You're not going to get lightning speed. You're not going to get the latest context size. You're not going to get data up to and including today. But you will unequivocally get a feel for what it's like to interact programmatically or even build your own model, train your own model, do things like that. And that is 100% free to do. So when we talk about things like home labs, right? Ollama, can somebody post the Ollama link over into YouTube really quick? Ollama is your home lab version of becoming an AI expert. This is your home lab. If you want practice, go download Ollama, start playing with the models locally. As you can tell, I've been doing a shit ton of research in this area. We are going to start doing some streams in this area as well. I'm very fired up about this. I'm very, very fired up about this. It's not easy to run. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about this really quick, right? Because this comes up when we talk about home labs. So let's address this comment and let's talk about home labs in general. A question I frequently get is, should I do my own home lab? And the answer is never yes or no. It is always it depends. But if you ask me to pick one today on the spot, if anybody dropped in chat, Neal, should I do my own home lab? I will unequivocally always, every single day of the week, say no. You should never, ever start with doing your own home lab. Ever. You should always start. So again, Chris, make note. Crawl, walk, run. Crawl, walk, run. The crawl version of becoming familiar with AI is your interaction with ChatGPT, with Grok, with everything else, right? That's your crawl. Your walk version could quite easily be, where was that comment? It was over on YouTube. This one. This could be your crawl version right here. I want to use XAI and OpenAI API to connect through OpenWebUI. You can get you a paid version of XAI and OpenAI's API. Wow, that's a whole lot of A's. Wow, that's a whole lot of A and a whole lot of AI. Right? OpenWebUI is a pretty standard GitHub package for you to use. And so that's pretty easy to bolt up two things together to test and see how they work. That's what we talk about when we talk about crawl. And the run version could be you do your own Python scripts for coding using the different models. Or you do a Midjourney type of thing where you give it a prompt and you ask it to do images. Right? Crawl, walk, run. Think about this in your learning journey. Think about this in your learning journey. You should always start with the easiest way possible so that you get the knowledge. The reason I bring this up is because I think that people start with the run version and then you end up like Brian, run, skip, jump, hop, fail, break ankle. When you start with the run version, that right there is exactly what your experience will be. And I am not an advocate. Let me be expressly clear with this. I do not think this facilitates learning. I do not think that this facilitates learning. There are people out there who disagree with me. I appreciate any civil discourse on the matter. But I do not think getting hit in the head with a pipe is the best way to learn that metal is solid. I know Brian didn't mean this specifically. Brian was being his usual cynical, joking self. So don't think that this is Brian's way of learning. This is not how he teaches his course. As a matter of fact, I'm incredibly a fan of how he teaches his course. My point is, there are people out there who believe this is exactly how you should learn. I think you should learn the other way around. Start with the easiest. Start with the thing that you have to put the least amount of effort and the least amount of work into so that you can understand and appreciate the concepts. And then grow up from there. It is a psychological proven fact that if you're not in pain, you will learn more easily. And if you're struggling to learn concepts, it will never stick. You are old. I am. All right. So start with the easy stuff first and go from there. God, I want to refresh LinkedIn so bad. I want to see if anybody's taking me up on it. Oh. Great question here, Neal. Will you say your experience at Red Team made you a better defender and CISO? Is it better for someone to first start about how attackers operate, their TTPs and objective before moving into the defensive area based on your idea that you can protect what you... there it is. What you... there's probably a lot more to that question. No, I do not think my experience at Red Team made me a better defender or CISO. As a matter of fact, I don't fundamentally believe. Let me make sure I say this, as succinctly as possible. It is more valuable for you to be a defender learning red team than to be red team learning incident response. Pay attention to the order that I went there with that. It is more important for you to be a defender learning red team tactics, techniques, procedures, learning pen testing, learning GXPN, all that stuff. It's more important for you to be that than for you to be a red teamer trying to learn IR, threat hunting, anything else like that. Here's the reason why. If you're a red teamer learning IR, learning threat hunting, all you're doing is learning how you might get caught during your engagement. And that only helps you be more successful in your endeavor. If you are a blue teamer learning hackers, tactics, techniques, procedures, how pen testing is done, things like that, you then get to improve the defensiveness of the entire organization. And that helps the entirety of the business. That helps the entirety of the community. Because then you get to share that with everybody else. That has way more impact on being a better defender, being a better CISO. Now my LinkedIn's blowing up. What the fuck? Matt mentioned you in a post. Oh boy. I'm not looking. It'll be whoever's at the top of my feed in the morning. For someone seeking their first cybersecurity job, blue team, red team, regardless, is it feasible, possible to get a remote job? Nothing is impossible. It is highly unlikely, and I 10 of 10 would not recommend it. 10 of 10 would not recommend it. Your first job, listen, your first job should not be remote. I said it. Fight me on it. Drop it in chat how much you hate what I just said. Your first job, especially in cyber, it is the worst thing for you to be remote for your first job. Where's Bayou Beast? Where's Bayou Beast? This mofo up and moved his whole life to Arkansas because of his experience with his first job being remote. Go talk to him. Go talk to him. Go in Discord right now. If you have this conversation, if this idea, go talk to him about his experience. Another one, like Residual's the same way. I went full remote after 3 months, and that 3 months on-prem was absolutely necessary. I'm not saying there isn't a place in this world for remote work. That's not me hating on remote work. That's not me advocating for 100% return to office. It's not what I'm saying at all. But the amount of learning that you get in person in your first job is paramount. The amount of social interaction with your peers is paramount. And again, I'm not saying go into the office where you sit in the office and you're on Zoom calls every day with a remote team. That's not what I'm advocating for. I'm advocating for a job where you've gone in person and the entirety of the team is in person, where the entirety of the people you work with or support is in person, where your leadership is in person. You are doing yourself a disservice by wanting your first job in cybersecurity to be 100% remote. You will have a much harder time making friends. You will have a much harder time being successful. You will have a much harder time connecting with your peers. You will have a much harder time connecting with your leadership. You will have a hard enough time connecting with your constituents. It has nothing to do with whether you're a slacker. It has nothing to do with whether whether we think you're working 8 hours a day. It has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do. It has everything to do with connecting with people and getting that knowledge transfer. I see this in chat. Remote work generally saves time and money related to commuting. I'm not arguing that. That's not what I'm arguing for. What I'm arguing for is that in the early phases of your career, where your brain synapses are building the connections that they need for you to have a successful career, the lack of interpersonal connections and knowledge transfer from senior leaders and more experienced practitioners in your respected areas is destroying your ability to be successful in this industry. Notice that what I said had nothing to do with saving money, saving gas, any of that shit. It is about the learning that will occur from being with your peers. Oh, shit. Somebody did it. Yeah, let's set it up. But listen. Matt's a talker, so we're gonna put a time limit on Matt because I know what Matt's gonna do. But so Matt has redeemed, Bayou Beast has redeemed the viewer call-in. We're gonna get that set up and we're gonna let Bayou Beast come on and say his piece because he has rightfully redeemed the viewer call-in option with his points. Okay. So we will let him exercise his well-earned perk for being a loyal viewer. While that's happening, I'll see if there's any comments on this. Wow, there's a lot on this. Wow. I as you can tell, like this is a very, very controversial subject, and I understand it, and I understand why this is controversial, and that's why I try to be very, I want to be honest and transparent with you guys, because like everybody wants remote work, because you see TikToks of people in their bathing suits at the hotel with their laptops taking Zoom calls, right? Or, there's this thought of like, well, I'm going to have a movie on my iPad while I sit here and watch, and I'll be in my shorts and, life will be great, right? And all that is nice, and it's definitely a perk. But again, I'm going to hurt your feelings. If you're new in this industry, it's a perk you haven't earned. It's a perk you have not earned. Perks are earned. And if you are new in this industry, you haven't earned that perk. Not because you're not good enough, not because you're low on the totem pole, not because of any of that. You haven't earned it because you haven't knowledge transferred from your peers. You haven't gained their 5, 10, 15 years worth of knowledge that they have gained, that they have gone through the grinder for, that they have walked on hot coals for. You haven't gained that, and you're not going to gain it doing Hack the Box. You're not going to gain it with Try Hack Me. You're not going to gain it by sitting on Zoom calls or in Slacks. There is knowledge transfer that physically cannot happen remotely. It cannot. Period. Dot. Into discussion. Let's see if I can remember how to do this. Okay, so he's in voice. I do. I gotta change the routing on the GoXLR routing. He's in. So that's gonna be chat mic. Oh shit! Broadcast stream mix chat. Okay, say something, Brian.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Okay, chat. Let me know if you can hear Brian in chat. Did you guys hear Brian? Okay, cool. We got it. Okay, got it. All right, cool. All right, I'm gonna hold on. Now I gotta change Discords. Now I gotta hold on. Here we go. Here we go. Matt, you there? Uh-oh. Check, check. Huh. All right. Check, check. No, it says connecting. It says connecting. We're still trying it. We're trying it. We're trying it. Why does it say connecting, Brian? Check, check. Can you? So it works. So it works in the control room. I don't have a voice in the voice channel. Check, check. There we go. All right.
Check.
All right. All right. Got him now. Cool. Brian had me on mute. Thanks a lot, Brian. All right. Everybody confirm you can hear Bayou Beast really good? Everybody works?
Check. 1, 2.
Discord's more difficult than an 8N. That's 100% true. All right, Bayou Beast, you're live. It's your time. Oh, they say volume up. Hold on for a second. Let me turn you up just a little bit. Here we go. All right, Bayou Beast, you're live. Go for it.
All right, so I 100% agree with every single thing Neal just said. 100%. Here's the thing. I started my career with a remote job. I now have an in-person job. The remote job, don't get me wrong, I learned a lot. I had really great experience. I learned everything I needed to do to level me up. But with that being said, if I could have had a remote job, or if I could have had an in-person job first, it would have put me miles ahead of where I'm even at today. Literally, where I sit every single day, I get to see my boss, his director, VP, CISO walks down the hall, all of the sister teams, right? Like, the amount of connections you build from being in person, you cannot put a dollar amount on it. Even if you got paid more to sit at home as your first job, it's not worth it, in my opinion. In the long run, you will get more out of being in person for your first job, for your second job, maybe even your third job, and then have that as a goal for later on in your career to be remote. But absolutely, do not undervalue and do not underestimate how powerful it is to have that name recognition, that being able to put faces to faces, people getting to see you every single day in the seat, doing what you need to do to protect the organization.
Let me dive a little bit into what you just said there really fast, right? So you go into the office, you see the CISO, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
And you'll pass by him and you'll have a conversation with him, right? You'll talk to him, you'll say, how's it going? You guys will exchange pleasantries, I presume, as well, just like any normal people will, right?
From the top down.
Okay. So every day, the CISO knows your name. The CISO knows what it is you do. You could, at any point in time, have 30 seconds with the CISO to explain your job to him, to explain, he could ask you about a threat. He could ask you about what you're seeing. He could ask you any of that, and you'd have 30 seconds to prove your value and worth to the CISO.
And 30 seconds, absolutely.
Okay. So what I'm hearing you say is that you're afforded more opportunities to progress upward in your career because you potentially could have daily interactions with the chief decision maker of the entire cybersecurity organization.
100%. If you have a job, if you want a job, then remote is fine. If you want a career, it's necessary to have that in person.
What when we talk about knowledge transfer, like I think, you've got a good team that you're working with now. You've got folks that you can learn from, and we've talked about how that learning has impacted you as well. What about other folks inside the organization that are not in cyber? Do you interact with other folks who are not in cyber as well?
Oh, absolutely. And here's something I would love to touch to on that. If you're working in cyber for an organization that they don't just do cyber things, they do other things, whether it's retail, whether it's energy, whatever it is they do, if you know the business, you can better understand the threats that business faces, and then in return be more effective at communicating the threats the business faces to them.
What does that do for you when you talk to the CISO?
It builds more repertoire. It allows you to have a voice in the room. It allows you to potentially have opportunities down the road that you won't even see coming, that I don't see coming, right? Because you won't know until that hits you in the face.
Didn't your CISO just come to your talk as well?
Absolutely. At our conference recently, I had the ability to represent my team and the organization, giving a talk on AI and the threat landscape surrounding it. And he was there. One of our VPs was there, and that as well is great visibility. And
that was made possible, if I recall correctly from our conversations, that was made possible because you consulted with him. You sought his advice, you pitched to him, and you got his endorsement because you saw him in the office.
Not my CISO directly, but like the 3 leadership chains below. And then he obviously saw the name, and there's sign-offs that happen and all that. But it was like, because I had the name recognition with my boss, my VP, the area director, all of the chains that lead upward, when it came time to submit a proposal, it had a higher chance of getting through.
When you talk about what you did learn being remote, I'm not going to let you get off here without talking about specifically what was good about it. What was good about working remote for your career that you did benefit from?
The thing that benefited me from working remote is having the opportunity to work with those senior folks in the industry that were not willing to move for their job.
When you chose to move to Arkansas, why did you make that decision?
I made that decision because I had turned down a job opportunity previously to receiving this one. And that one would have been remote or hybrid or whatever. I chose to move to Arkansas because the opportunity afforded to me by working with some of the best people in the field that are doing the things that I do, and working for an organization that has global visibility, I knew later on in my career that'll pay dividends.
So great question from chat, and we're going to do this live while you're here, right? There's still skeptics in chat, right? And so there's a skeptic in chat. Still sounds like things you could do remote. Do you not have meetings with your coworkers? Please explain why you think your meetings with coworkers are better in person than they are remote.
So the meetings with coworkers in person are way better in person than remote for a few reasons. One, if you need to have a conversation with someone that is more efficient than setting up a meeting, trying to find time to sync calendars, you can either eat lunch with them, you can go directly up to their desk as long as they're not on a call and have that in-person conversation. You can build all these sorts of connections in person without having to go through all the formalities of what time on your calendar works for you. Let's set up a meeting and all those messages that get shared back and forth before you're actually able to get your point across. Also, not everything should be a meeting, but when you're remote, everything has to be a meeting. Right? So if you don't have to have meetings, it increases efficiency. It increases visibility of people seeing, hey, this individual is going out and talking to people in the area. They're either doing what they do or interacting with people that are doing ancillary things but still support what they do. That goes way further than a meeting on a calendar, which nobody really has visibility to unless somebody goes into the logs and looks to see what meetings were and weren't had.
All right, Matt, I'm gonna send you on. Thank you so very much as always for redeeming your points, for being, around the community for as long as you have. I really do appreciate you and really do appreciate you jumping on. Listen, what he's talking about and what you just saw, BSEC put in chat is the cooler talk, right? Nobody like what you're hearing out of Bayou Beast, what you're seeing out of BSEC is that randomness that comes in a conversation. When you work remote, you have zero visibility to the rest of the organization and to the rest of the team. Which means you could essentially not exist. You could not attend a single meeting. You could not talk to leadership. You could do that for 8 hours of the day. And that may sound really, really nice for a lot of you. And if it does, more power to you. But I can tell you for your career, and back to the question that was asked, for your career, it is the worst thing ever. It is hands down the worst thing ever. To have your leadership not even know you exist, other than your name, to be associated with a payroll and a performance review that they see once a year, is the worst thing for your career. Think about that. Somebody has to make a decision. Residual, I'm going to talk to you. I know this isn't your case, but I'm going to talk to what you just came in here and chat and dropped on everybody, right? Right? It is the worst thing for you to go up for promotion or for you to have to be evaluated for a pay increase, and for the only thing that your leadership to know about you is only what they've seen in a Zoom meeting, potentially in a Slack message, or in a yearly performance review. If they've not interacted with you at all ever for 1 year, and their entire premise about your performance comes down to that, how likely do you think that it's going to be that you're going to get that promotion, especially when compared to a peer who has done exactly the opposite? Right? That's what I want you to think about. And again, I saw a chat coming through, right? I saw a chat coming through where they were like, company culture matters. And I absolutely believe that company culture matters in this, right? And I see John over here in YouTube, freedom is more important than career. Hey, if that's your mentality, you will get no complaints from me. None. GG's, go have fun. Everybody's got their own personal objectives and ideas. So again, I'm not here to shit in your Wheaties if you're like, I care way more about my freedom than my career. Big, huge thumbs up. Go forth rolling. if you care about your career, you'll have a different perspective. When your friends are outpacing you by 20, 30, 40, and 50%, when they're retiring early, when they've built clout and trust with leadership, listen, I was working at Abbott long before COVID, right? I'd gone past Abbott and was at Mondelez when COVID happened. I was deputy CISO, senior director, reporting to the CISO for a Fortune 100 company, leading all security operations, 170 countries, over 100 people on my team, global organization. And I still had the freedom to go play golf whenever the fuck I wanted to. And the CISO would call me on the golf course to ask me a question. So let me say this for the naysayers in the room. If you think that you don't get freedom by going into the office or having a 9 to 5, you're fucking wrong. You're fucking wrong. You are allowing the stupid fucking social media shit to fuck with your head. I don't know how many I've gone on to. I know I've well exceeded my quota. But I'm telling you right now, social media is not fucking real life. You can have freedom and still go into the office every day. Like, if you think that you don't have freedom because you go into the office, enjoy your social media fucking dystopia because it's not real. If you think that because you, in your company right now, in your culture, you get to have personal meetings over Zoom, GG's. Glad you found that. Right? That's not everybody else. Right? Don't lose it if that's how you feel about it. Right? I'm not here to give you a sugar-coated view of the world. Right? I'm not here to give you a sugar-coated view of the world. I love this from TSU Jack. The freedom people lack time management. 1,000%. 1,000%. Listen, I work at a startup. I'm CISO at a startup. And by CISO, that means that I'm CISO, the SOC analyst, the incident responder, the pen tester, the GRC analyst. I'm also the solution architect. I'm part CS person. I help with product management. And I'm a sales engineer. And I play golf 6 to 7 times a week, training to be on the PGA Tour. I have a physical therapist. I go to the gym every day. And I got time to stream. And I got time to play World of Warcraft. Do I have freedom? You goddamn right I do. Every day I got freedom and I make no qualms about it. You know why? Because I have time management. Freedom is about how you conduct yourself. Right? You are in control of your life. You are in control of your schedule. You are in control of the amount of time. This gets back to what I was saying before. If you have a desire to be in this career field and you don't wake up every single day with a commitment and a plan to do whatever it takes to get into this career field, that's on you. That's not on the industry. That's not on gatekeepers. That's not on OffSec. That's not on, a company that will or won't hire. That's on you. That's on you. You're the problem. Hashtag sorry, not sorry. I'll do my best to avoid it, but we are a mature stream. We do advocate being a mature stream. We do remind people that we are a mature stream. We do our best to do the best we can. but no
Ain't
problem.
maturity around here.
Ain't no maturity around here. We do our best. We do our best. But we are also real people. And this is how real people talk. Like I said, there is a whole lot of thoughts around remote work. And let me sign it off by saying this, right? There is no right answer. The only right answer that exists is what works for you, your family, and your mental health, right? You have to decide what your priorities are. You have to decide what's important to you. You have to decide how that works for you. John posted a follow-up. Where's that follow-up from John? Which I thought was well said, right? Right? Depends on where the office is. Absolutely. That should weigh into your decision. Right? I mean, I wouldn't go to LA. I wouldn't go to Seattle, right? Hell, I probably wouldn't go to Miami, right? But at the same time, I'll tell you what I would do is I'd make a risk-based decision about what was right for my career. Work is going to consume a large part of your life. And so it is so important that you make decisions based on the fact that it's going to be that much of a part of your life. And so what I will tell you is, and this is real, I have said that I will never, ever, ever live in New York City. But I will absolutely also tell you this. There was a company in New York City that had me come to an interview with the promise of a 7-figure salary. And I would unequivocally tell you that was enough for me to say, I will go to that interview. Now, if culture, the job requirements, right, all that other stuff, if none of that stuff hadn't fallen through, I might be having a different conversation with you. I might be looking out the apartment window of an apartment in New York City right now, having this conversation with you. You know why? Because freedom for me looks really, really nice on a 7-figure salary. Right? With stocks, with options, with retirement, with perks. Right? Don't ever say never, because you start to realize that there are certain things in life that you can accomplish at certain levels. And if that's fine, if you're okay accepting those, then that works well. Listen, and I tell this story frequently, right? I tell this story frequently. I knew a guy who was 55 years old. He had been in the workforce for well over 30 years, who only ever wanted to be a pen tester. He never wanted to be a manager. He never wanted to be a director. He never wanted to be leadership. He knew that he would never make more than $115,000 a year. That was the cap at the company he worked at. And he risk accepted that was okay. And that's all I'm an advocate for, is make informed decisions based on the things that are important to you. That's all I've ever been an advocate for any of you, is to make informed decisions. And if after hearing everything, you're like, I now feel more informed, thank you for that. I'll continue to make the decision that I've been making. You get nothing but thumbs up from me. Nothing but thumbs up from me. Because that's all I've ever cared about. What I talk about when I give these opinions is I want to make sure that you hear every single side of the square. And that's, again, we talk about things that you should expect from this stream. You should expect to hear the full circle. Because when people say, can I get a remote job as my first time? Let's break that myth. let's make sure you're informed, because when you ask that question, I don't think you're informed on what the damage is to your career that could potentially do. So welcome to cybersecurity. Welcome to Cyber Insecurity. We are here to make sure you are informed. We're not here to push our opinions on you. We're not here to tell you that we are the only truth, that we are the gospel. We're not here to tell you any of that. What we're here to make sure to do is that you are looking around corners and that you are fully informed about the decisions. And I've just been reminded that we've been going at it for 3 hours. Holy shit. Sorry, I just realized that. That wasn't an F-bomb, though, technically. I think it's a good time to cut off for the evening. We've got a stream tomorrow at 11. We're going to have Jason on with the threat brief. I think we've had a lot of great conversation tonight. Make sure you're tuned in tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, for the threat brief. No stream on Thursdays, no Sec Data Ops on Thursday, but we will have tea with a hacker on Friday. I appreciate you guys as always. I appreciate your questions. Brian, can you see if you can find somebody to raid, since we got a good amount of people here? Let's see if we can find anybody to raid. Everybody who's on Twitch, hang out for a second. We're going to see if we can find somebody to raid really quick. If you've never raided with us before, we try to go find somebody who's up and coming in this section, or in the cybersecurity space, who's also streaming. They've oftentimes got a much smaller audience. We want to bring our energy. We want to bring our love. We want to bring our awesome community to them so that they can benefit from your awesomeness, right? I love you guys. Make sure you're in Discord. Make sure you're in Discord. Make sure you're following me on my social media accounts. Make sure you tune into streams. I didn't think you'd go another hour since I showed up late. I honestly, if I didn't have to pee from 2 Coke Zeros and a bottle of water, there's potential I could go for another hour, but I got to go pee.
I'm not seeing anybody good first glance.
Not seeing anybody good first glance. All right, we're gonna sign it off for the evening. I appreciate you guys. You all stay awesome. Remember, whether you're on the red side or the blue side, God, I can't even speak anymore. We're still deciding. Make sure you keep learning. Thanks for tuning in for your daily dose of realism. Make sure you tune in tomorrow for the Cyber Threat Brief. Stay awesome, and we'll see you later.